I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. It was the kind of bookstore cafe hybrid that tried a little too hard. Mismatched chairs, chalkboard menus, indie music just loud enough to drown out your own thoughts. I came on Tuesdays because no one else really did. It gave me space to work, pretend to, mostly. She was always behind the counter, hair pulled back in that kind of neat but tired way. Mid-40s, maybe. Always wore sweaters like she dressed for cold air that never came. The first time I noticed her, she was scolding the espresso machine under her breath. The second time, she remembered I liked my coffee with just a splash of oat milk. "Still no sugar?" she asked, not looking up. "Still trying to be better," I mumbled. She gave a soft laugh. "You and me both." After that, she'd nod at me when I walked in just once, but enough to register. I'd sit in the far corner with my laptop open, watching my cursor blink on an empty page while pretending I was doing something important. Every once in a while, she'd glance over, like she was checking if I was still there. Or maybe I just hoped she was. It wasn't anything. Not really. But last week, she brought my coffee without me asking. "I figured you'd order the same," she said. "You always do." There was no smile, no wink. Just a simple handoff, a brief meeting of eyes. Then she turned back to the counter. That night, I left my text to my ex-girlfriend half-written and never sent. I started noticing the way she rubbed her thumb across her palm when she was thinking, or how she never rushed, even when the place got busy. Her presence had this stillness. Not calm exactly, more like a quiet storm that had already passed. Today, I got there earlier than usual. She was restocking the front shelves, crouched in front of a stack of poetry books. When she stood, I caught her eye by accident. She looked startled, then almost shy. "Early bird," she said. I shrugged. "Insomnia." She nodded like she understood it too well. "Coffee? Please." I took the seat by the window this time, where the late summer sun warmed the corner of the table. She set the cup down beside me a few minutes later, her fingers brushing the table as if she were hesitant to let go. "You look like someone waiting for something," she said, eyes flicking to my screen. "Just trying to start." She lingered a second longer than usual. "Sometimes it's not about starting," she said softly. "It's about stopping whatever's keeping you." I didn't respond. Couldn't. I just watched the way her hand lingered on the edge of my table, then disappeared when she walked away. The place emptied out by 4 p.m. A group of students left behind muffin crumbs and noise. She wiped down the tables with tired, efficient movements. I started packing up, hesitated, then pulled my phone out and opened a blank note. I typed, deleted, typed again. Then, just as I slung my bag over my shoulder, my phone buzzed. It was from a number I didn't have saved. Just one line. "If you're not doing anything Thursday, come by after close." No name, just the familiar ellipsis she always used when thinking aloud. And somehow I knew exactly who it was. The bookstore was closed by the time I got there. Lights off, but the back door was cracked open, warm light spilling from the small staff kitchen. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to go in. I'd already imagined too many versions of what tonight could be. But because a part of me wondered if I'd made it all up. She looked surprised when I stepped inside, like she didn't fully expect me to come. "I made too much tea," she said simply, holding up 2 mugs. "Chamomile. No sugar." Of course she remembered that too. I took the cup, careful not to touch her fingers. She didn't say much at first, and I didn't push. We sat on opposite stools, the hum of the fridge filling the spaces between sips. She glanced at the clock once, then at the window. I watched her do it. "You're wondering if I should be here," I said finally. She looked at me and for the first time didn't look away. "I was wondering if you're cold," she replied, voice soft. "You always wear those thin jackets like you're trying to prove something." I smiled, even though it wasn't really a joke. "I'm not very good at dressing for the weather." She nodded like that explained something bigger. "Me neither." She looked older up close. Not in a bad way, just like life had passed through her. Her hands had tiny burn marks near the knuckles. Her eyes had that tired sharpness people get when they've had to be stronger than they wanted to be. I used to be married, she said quietly. Left 3 years ago. Not because he was awful. He just forgot who I was. And I forgot too. I didn't say anything. Just listened. She smiled, but it didn't reach all the way. Sorry. That's a lot. No, I said. It's not. A silence passed between us. Not heavy. Not light. Just real. I'm 23, I added. In case you were wondering. I was. She stood then, started rinsing the mugs even though they weren't empty. I moved to help, handed her the dish towel. Our fingers brushed. Not by accident this time. It wasn't a kiss. Or a confession. Just skin on skin. Warm. Real. She took a slow breath. Like she was holding something in. You remind me of someone I used to be before everything got complicated. And you make me feel like things don't have to stay complicated forever. She looked at me again, longer this time. Something flickered in her expression. Not longing. Not regret. Something in between, like memory brushing against possibility. She didn't say anything, but she handed me the towel. I took it. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone the next few days were off. She was still there, behind the counter. Still gave me my coffee. Still remembered no sugar. But something in her had stepped back. Just slightly. Like a door she'd opened too far and now regretted it. I caught her watching me once. She looked away too fast. Maybe I'd imagined it. Or maybe she didn't want it to mean what it might have meant. Tuesday, the store was unusually full. Poetry reading or something. I hadn't planned to come, but I did anyway. She was pouring drinks at the side table, trying to smile, but her eyes kept flicking toward the door. Toward me. I stayed in the back, leaning against the wall. Tried to read. Didn't. Then I saw her, Emily, my classmate, the one who introduced me to this place 2 months ago. She walked in, spotted me instantly. Oh my God! She grinned, weaving through the chairs. You still come here? Sometimes. Her voice was too loud. Her eyes already scanning. Isn't she, like your mom's age? She said in a whisper that wasn't quiet at all, gesturing toward the counter. I felt my throat close a little. Laughed it off. She's cool. Emily raised an eyebrow. Cool. Sure. I didn't respond. I saw the woman. I still didn't know if I should call her by her first name. Look up, just for a second. Then return to her task. By the time I got near the counter, she was folding napkins, pretending not to notice. I didn't expect you tonight, she said, eyes fixed on the stack. I wasn't sure I'd come. She nodded, not smiling. Your friend's bubbly. I didn't come with her. She looked up then, met my eyes, said nothing. Later, after most people had left, I lingered by the shelf where she was reshelving chapbooks. She stood on tiptoes to reach the top, wobbled slightly. Without thinking, I steadied her waist with one hand. She froze. So did I. Her shirt was soft cotton. I could feel her ribs rise and fall. She stepped down slowly, turned. I shouldn't. I know. We were close. Closer than before. I could smell her tea. Chamomile again. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but didn't. Her fingers brushed mine again, then paused, held. The space between us went quiet. Even the hum of the lights felt too loud. I leaned in just a little. Not enough. She didn't move, but something flickered across her face. Fear? Want? Guilt? Then the front bell jingled. A delivery guy stepped halfway in. Just here for the receipts, he said. We both blinked. She let go of my hand. Stepped back. I should finish up, she said, already turning. I nodded, though my chest felt like it was still leaning forward. Still waiting. The delivery guy whistled softly. Oblivious. I stood there longer than I needed to. Hands in my jacket. Heart somewhere else. Do you like this personality? Ask ChatGPT. Ally saw me. It was closing time again. I didn't plan on staying, but I had, again, waited too long to leave. She was locking up, flipping chairs. I offered to help. She didn't say yes, but didn't stop me either. I don't usually let people stay this late, she said, not looking at me. I don't usually stay, I said. I just don't feel like going home lately. She nodded. That's been true for me for years. We walked out together. She didn't drive, just walked the 3 blocks to her apartment. I offered to walk her there. She hesitated, then said okay. It was a warm night, quiet except for the sound of cicadas and the occasional tire roll. She held her thermos in both hands like she was cold, even though she wasn't. I walked beside her, not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel it might happen. I saw you with her, she said suddenly. Took me a second. Emily? She looked young. I almost laughed, but something in her voice stopped me. She is closer to your world. Doesn't mean she sees me. Silence. She slowed her pace near a bench and sat. I followed. The streetlight above us buzzed faintly. She didn't speak for a while, just kept her eyes on the sidewalk across the street, like something might appear there if she looked long enough. Then, you ever feel like you're doing something wrong even when you haven't done anything yet? I swallowed. All the time. Her thumb ran along the side of the thermos. A slow rhythm. Nervous, maybe. When my son brings his friends over, they laugh like they don't know I can hear them. They joke about women my age. Moms. Landladies. Desperate women. I wonder sometimes if that's how I sound to you. I turned toward her. You don't. She finally looked at me. Eyes tired, but clear. You could be anything. Be with anyone. Why are you here? I didn't know how to answer that. Not in a way that didn't sound like a line. But I tried. Because when you talk, it's the only time I don't feel like I have to pretend I'm someone I'm not. She let that sit. Then looked away again. Pulled her sweater tighter. I used to think wanting things made me reckless, she said. Now I think not wanting anything made me worse. She blinked hard, like she regretted saying it. The streetlight flickered once. I reached out, slowly, and touched the edge of her sleeve. Just held it between 2 fingers. I don't know what this is, I said. She didn't move. Her arm didn't pull away, but her mouth parted slightly, like she might speak. Or not. Then she turned, just a little, her eyes on mine. We were close. 1 second away. The thermos clicked in her hand as she gripped it tighter. She whispered, more to herself than to me. What if we can't come back from this? Ask ChatGPT. She wasn't there on Tuesday. No note on the counter. No backup barista fumbling with the espresso machine. Just the hum of the fridge and the quiet of absence. I waited. Ordered something I didn't want from the guy filling in. Sat in my usual corner. And told myself she was probably just sick. Or tired. Or being careful. By Thursday, I knew something had shifted. She hadn't texted. Not that she ever really did. Not in full sentences. Just the occasional, or a photo of a book spine or a one-word reply that still managed to feel like something more. Now nothing. I walked by her building that night without meaning to. Just ended up near it. The light was on in her second-story window. I could see the blur of her shadow moving inside. Not pacing, just passing. A silhouette of someone living a life I wasn't part of anymore. I didn't go up, didn't knock, didn't even pause long enough to be seen. The next day I found out from Emily, of all people, that her son was back in town. College break. Something about her looking more serious lately. More closed off. Emily said it like gossip, but it hit like fact. And suddenly things made more sense. The step back. The change in air. The way she gripped that thermos like it was holding her in place. I showed up to the shop 2 more times just in case. Then stopped going altogether. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know if she wanted me to. A week passed. Then another. I kept writing her texts and not sending them. Hope you're okay. I didn't mean to make it complicated. I didn't expect you to mean this much. Each one hovered for a few seconds before I deleted it. On Friday, I walked by the bookstore again. The lights were on. She was behind the counter. I froze from across the street. She hadn't seen me, or maybe she had and chose not to show it. She looked fine. Same cardigan. same careful hair. But she didn't move like she used to. Something in her posture was different. Straighter, like she'd decided to carry something heavier again. I didn't go in. I stood there for a minute too long, then turned and walked home. Didn't check my phone. Didn't try again. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. She opened the door before I could knock. "I saw you walking up," she said. "You're not subtle." I wasn't trying to be. Her face was unreadable, but she didn't step back. Just held the door with one hand, body angled like she still hadn't decided whether to let me in. "You haven't been around." "You weren't either." That hung there for a moment. No sharpness, just fact. She finally moved aside. I stepped into the quiet. The small apartment smelled like lemon soap and whatever she just made for dinner. She didn't offer tea, didn't sit, just stood near the sink, arms crossed loosely. "I wasn't avoiding you," she said. "You kind of were." She exhaled. "Okay, I was." "Why?" A long pause. Then, "Because he was home. My son." I nodded slowly. "And because I started to picture things. You meeting him. Him looking at me like I forgot what line I'm not supposed to cross. I wouldn't have said anything." "I know. That's what made it worse." She finally looked at me. Really looked. "You never asked me for anything," she said. "Not even my name. Because I thought if I asked, it would turn into something it wasn't ready to be. I think it already did." The silence between us felt full, not empty this time. "I tried to leave it alone," I said. "Let it settle." But it didn't. It just kept showing up. Every time I passed a window or poured a cup of coffee or sat alone for too long. She smiled. Barely. "You're young," she said. "You don't know yet how long the aftertaste of something like this can last." "I'm not asking for forever." "Then what are you asking for?" I hesitated. Swallowed. "A moment," I said. "One that doesn't pretend it didn't mean anything." Her eyes softened. Not all the way, but something shifted. She stepped closer. Not much. Just enough to blur the line we'd spent so long drawing. Then she reached up, slow, almost unsure, and touched the collar of my jacket. Fixed it gently. Her fingers barely grazed my neck. "That's all?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, not mocking, just tired, careful. I nodded. "Yeah, that's all." She didn't kiss me. I didn't move closer. But she rested her forehead against my shoulder for just a second. Just long enough to feel real. And then she stepped back. "Okay," she said softly. "No promises. No unraveling. Just a moment. Shared. And maybe that was enough. It didn't happen all at once. There was no sweeping kiss. No whispered "I love you." Just a quiet return. A slow folding back into each other's lives like it had always been inevitable. But no one had dared say it aloud. I started coming in again. Tuesdays at 8:47 a.m., just like before. She pretended not to notice the exact time for a while, until one morning, without looking up, she said, "Still no sugar?" And I said, "Still trying to be better." She handed me the coffee, her fingers brushing mine just a little longer than necessary. Neither of us pulled away. Over time, the air around us changed. Loosened. Sometimes I helped her stock shelves when the café was slow. Sometimes we sat outside after close, on the same bench a few blocks down, sipping chamomile from the thermos she kept forgetting to rinse properly. She never said much during those moments. Neither did I. That was the point. One night, I offered her half of my muffin. She took it, even though she said she wasn't hungry. Broke off a small piece and placed it on a napkin between us. She never ate it, but she kept it there the whole time we talked. There were still gaps. Days we didn't speak. Times she'd look out the window and go somewhere else in her mind. I let her. I knew she'd come back when she was ready. And when I brought her a book of poems I thought she'd like, she didn't say anything. Just ran her fingers down the spine and whispered, "I had this once. I forgot it existed." I told her I'd keep reminding her of things she forgot. She didn't reply, but later that evening, she leaned her head against my arm while we watched the bookstore lights turn off one by one. Just stayed like that, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I met her son eventually. Not by plan. He showed up unannounced. Looked me over once, then offered a half smile and a, "You work here or something?" She just said, "He's a friend." He nodded, didn't ask more. I think that was enough for both of us. Now, months later, I still don't call it anything. We don't talk about the before times, or what might come next. She still wears the same sweaters, drinks her tea too cold, and folds napkins when she's overthinking something. I still write half texts I never send, even now. But the difference is I don't need to send them. She's here. I'm here. And every so often, when I pick up my coffee, she slips a note under the cup sleeve. Never long. Just things like, "Don't forget the world feels lighter when you're in it." Poem on page 47 reminded me of that Tuesday. Come by early. We've got the bench tonight. Some people fall in love loudly. Others just stay. And sometimes that's the real kind. The kind that lingers even after the lights go out. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?